Hi everyone, it is Susie Lula and I am here with Adrienne Carnes in Texas. So we are on day 5 of Living the Motherhood Evolution, and today we are talking about mother guilt. So I call it Guilt Be Gone, once and for all. So I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be in Texas, and so happy to be with Adrienne.
I'm so happy.
This is actually the first time that Adrienne and I are meeting in person. So we've worked together and been friends and connected, and we are now meeting in person. So I'm so happy to be here with her. So welcome everyone. For those of you just joining, I am Susie Lula. I'm here with Adrienne Carnes. I have just written this book called The Motherhood Evolution, How Thriving Mothers Raise Thriving Children. And so we are talking about self-care and how to transform our lives from a life where perhaps before we are exhausted and overwhelmed and feeling disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from our own spirit, and definitely disconnected somewhat from our children. And today we're going to be talking about how self-care and letting go of mama guilt. So my husband is sending love. It's always great to be getting some love from your husband. So as I said, I'm here in Texas with Adrienne, and we're talking about mama guilt. So, in working with individuals all day long, all day, every day, I always say there isn't a day that goes by that someone doesn't tell me that they feel guilty for taking care of themselves, or they feel guilty for not taking care of themselves. So we put ourselves in a double bind. I'm noticing that there is a lot of activity around here, so I'm just wanting to make sure that everyone can hear us. So if you cannot hear us, just write in the comment section and I will speak up. I'm trying to speak a little softly because we're in the midst of a beautiful, beautiful lobby, but we are in a public lobby. So if you can't hear us, I'll speak up. But in any case, so we're here today talking about mama guilt, and as I say, guilt be gone. So I'm wondering, Adrienne, I guess the obvious question is, have you ever experienced mama guilt? And if so, if you could just share with us a little bit about your journey with mama guilt.
Sure. We were talking earlier about how naturally I have felt guilt probably every day for the last 7 years because I have a 7-year-old daughter. And I think through my work with Susie on self-care, that guilt, of course, is natural, but caring for myself has been the lifeline to get through the guilt.
Yeah, it's a great idea that we should talk about exactly what guilt is. So we could spend an hour minimum even just defining guilt, and it actually goes very deep when I think about the individuals that I work with. Guilt goes deep, and not to dive real deep, but when you think about it, every one of us, whether we literally believe it or not, I'm sure every one of us has heard the phrase original sin, right? So we've heard this phrase original sin, this idea that's floating around in the cultural ethers that something could be wrong with us. So now there's a difference between a behavior that we might want to change a behavior and the feeling that something is literally wrong with us, original sin, that we could be flawed at our core in some way. And so when you think about guilt, guilt is the idea that we haven't taken the time to really think through, whether we believe and buy into, do I at my core think that something is wrong with me? Okay, everybody, got to be honest with you all. I am trying to get this beautiful background, and when I get to talking, I'm forgetting about the camera. Okay, guilt is something that there's a difference between believing that inherently who I am, my being, is flawed, and the difference between that and perhaps seeking to change some of my behaviors. So culture has told us, as we've spoken about on every one of these Facebook Lives, culture has told us that it is not okay to take care of ourselves, that we should feel guilty when we spend time on ourselves. And we, as a collective group, especially mothers, especially women, we have bought in to this cultural paradigm, this cultural belief system that says we are doing something wrong. Now, when you are thinking and believing yourself to do something wrong, you are living in a world of duality. There's right and there's wrong. And whenever you are living in a paradigm of duality, you're living in a paradigm of lack, a paradigm of shoulds. One way is better, one way is worse. One way is good, one way is bad. One way is right, one way is wrong. So the first thing when talking about guilt is we really need to call ourselves forward to begin to go through our own belief systems and ask ourselves whether we really believe what culture is telling us to buy into. And what I find with women every day when we're really diving deep is intuitively we know that there's not only nothing wrong with taking care of ourselves, but that it is an innocent intention that we're seeking to nourish ourselves so that we can show up for those around us. It's a good intention. It's an innocent intention. Our intuition knows, and what happens is we override our intuition over and over and over again, and we buy into what culture tells us rather than what our own intuition tells us. Has that been your experience, Adrienne?
Absolutely.
Do you want to share anything around that?
Well, I think, everything about the culture, maybe not everything, but a lot of the things about our culture do in fact what Susie was just talking about. And for me personally, I know that I feel much better when I can get to the place where my intuition is and where I can feel abundant, and that there isn't a difference between, or there isn't a duality, like Susie says, with what I just did was right and what I just did was wrong. There's ways of showing up as a mother, I believe, that makes more connection with my children than others. But I tell myself and I write to myself that I am on this journey learning every minute of every day, and I don't believe that learning is a sin.
Right.
Or
Right. And so you are saying that you've taken the time since doing our work together, you've taken the time to explore the beliefs that culture there. There we are. Here we are again, everybody. Working with an internet connection here. So Adrienne is saying that she has taken the time to explore some of the beliefs. And when you take the time to explore the beliefs, this is what I guarantee you. When you take the time to explore these beliefs, you will come face to face with your own intuitive knowing inside. And your own intuition will Your connection is weak. Our connection is weak, everyone.
it is.
Our connection feels so strong.
So strong.
I think our connection is really strong. So let's see. So here's what I'm trying to say, though. When you take the time to really explore your own beliefs and against what culture tells you, you unequivocally, absolutely will find your own intuitive voice, and your own intuitive voice is so empowering. It's so much more powerful than anything that culture will tell us. So I really want find a stronger. Okay, thanks for bearing with us, everyone. So I really want to give Adrienne a chance to really share her journey, because I know you've been on a journey of pushing through the guilt, and you had a beautiful, beautiful way of connecting with your creativity where self-care is concerned. So I'm going to let you share.
Well, Susie and I have done work. I remember the day we talked for a whole hour about different ways that I could connect with my intuition inside and who I was inside. And we talked about music, and we talked about dancing, and we talked about lots of different ways. I also have shared with Susie that I love writing, and writing is one of the things that I do as some form of meditation. And through the work with Susie about self-care, I have done a lot of journaling and added some creativity to my journaling, and that has been very powerful for me. And I might show you some of these journal entries, but what I wanted to say about them also is that, you know, if I'm having any kind of
Trying to get her in the frame here. There you go. I want everyone to see your beautiful face.
when I'm having any kind of emotion or something that is congestive inside of me that I want to work through so that I can be most authentic in my expression, then I do go to my journal and I either draw or write about the feeling that I want to embody, and it brings me back to that place inside of me that does feel most authentic. So this is just,
Stay close, stay close.
this is just my journal.
So we know it's
But-
going to come out backwards, everyone. And so just remember, this isn't the point isn't to see it as much as to experience it, because what she's saying is that she's found a way to connect with her own creativity. Here, let's see. Oh, there you go. I don't know if you guys can see this.
In this journal, I really wanted to embody the student within me that learns and seeks through this journal writing and through this book. And I spent quite a bit of time last weekend writing my self-care manifesto. Worked with Susie for a long time on self-care, and I did write a manifesto which just reviews what I believe, what I trust, what I celebrate, my commitment to self-care. And this is my way, one of my many ways, but one of the really powerful ways that I do take care of myself through journaling.
Wow, that's beautiful. Do you want to read some of this? This is beautiful. If you all could see it, the thing that I love about Adrienne is that she's so aesthetic. So hold it up again. So there's all these, first of all, these really beautiful colors, and the thing about it is, when my definition, obviously any of you that know my work and those of you who are just getting to know my work, my definition of self-care is that which nourishes our spirit. So when even I look at something and I see these beautiful colors and the beautiful artwork that she does, you know, it's not telling us, oh, we need to be, you know, beautiful artists, as much as we're seeking to, beauty is such a quality of the spirit. And so when we connect with qualities of our spirit, qualities of our heart, it assists us to move out of the paradigm of right and wrong, guilt or innocence, and move into the paradigm of beauty and creativity and inspiration and enthusiasm for life. So I love visually, without even hearing a word yet, I love visually just to look at it. And I know my son and I used to, rather than going out and buying cards in stores when he was little, we would always just make our own cards. And I used to feel so full just getting out colors that used to remind me of being a child. Yeah. So this can bring out the childlike nature in us, you know, on so many, many, many different levels. This is just lovely and a real act of nourishing your spirit. So do you want to read some of it?
Sure. I believe that self-care is my expression of gratitude and my offering to creation. I trust the experience of self-care, and I trust that through dedication to self-care, I will express myself most authentically.
This is beautiful. Can I interrupt her? Okay, so isn't this what we women, mothers, and even men that I work with, this is what, I can't get you in this frame. I want her beautiful face in here. even men, we are seeking to be self-expressed. We are seeking to be fully self-expressed, because when you think of your interactions with your children want you to be coming from your heart. They're looking for a connection. They're looking for presence. And so what Adrienne is saying is that when she gives herself this dedication, this permission to express herself most authentically, this fills her up. It fills her up from the heart, right? And then think about this as it overflows then, because the whole point of this is it's not only for our own fullness, it's to be able to create the relationships that our children are seeking from us.
Exactly.
And so imagine, Adrienne, imagine yourself in your own life, giving yourself the dedication, the permission, the commitment to be fully self-expressed. And when you are fully self-expressed, your child is going to be the beneficiary. Your child is going to feel that when they walk into the room.
Yes.
How can you feel guilty about doing
Yes.
this? And yet,
Yes.
we do. So go ahead.
Yes.
Anyone else that you want to read on here?
When I feel disconnected, I will pause, breathe, and nourish my soul.
Oh, this is a good one. Okay, when I feel disconnected, I will pause, breathe, and nourish my soul. So I've said this on these live broadcasts before, but I'll say it again. When my son was little, and I would pick up every one of the parenting books I could find, and every one of them would tell me to pause. And I would shout back to these books, if I could pause, I wouldn't be reading this book.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
pause.
Yeah.
And I used to tease, actually, that the name of the book that I would write was going to be called In Search of My Pause.
Yes.
Because I couldn't find it.
Yep.
And what I have found is that nourishing my spirit and taking really good care of myself,
Yes.
I found my pause.
Yes.
I found my pause. It's not a problem now when my
Yes.
son comes in and he's upset and he's like, Mom, I can't find this such and such, or Mom, what did you do with the blah, 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 or whatever it is that's going on. When I'm full, and I always say 85%, right? Because we don't want it to be have to. But when we take care of ourselves 85% of the time, then, we're going to have that pause. We're going to be able to take a breath and breathe. And I love that. Love that.
Taking care of myself, when you say brings the pause, allows me to recognize quicker when I'm not connected.
Yes.
Which is what you mean, I think, by brings back the pause. You can feel it internally
Yes.
when
Yes.
you're not as connected.
Yes, this is what we're seeking. We're seeking to recognize when we are full.
Yes.
And then we're seeking to recognize our tank as it goes down. That moment of,
Yes.
oh, I'm feeling just slightly disconnected, instead of, I used to be at empty and not even have any kind of awareness of how I got there.
Right.
And
right.
so you're talking about being able to feel in a sensitive way inside of yourself, and this is what self-care does.
Exactly.
It allows us to reconnect with our own sensitivity. And I think that what I'm finding anyway in working with individuals is that we're all such sensitive spirits. We're all such sensitive beings. And our children are so sensitive. They're still very connected to the spirit world, to a larger dimension, a dimension that puts us in awe. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be in that state inside of myself so that I can meet my child in that state, So anything else on here, or anything you want to share about?
Well, a big moment for me, and this will be the last thing that I read off of it, but a big moment for me was when this statement expresses it. But I know I am taking care of me when I am able to experience the moment as it is, when I accept life in every moment.
Yeah. This is what we were talking about yesterday. Mm-hmm. We were talking, for any of you who missed yesterday, you might want to go back and watch it. We were talking about the idea that life is going to hand us what it's going to hand us. Life is going to hand us loss sometimes. Life is going to hand us big feelings, big circumstances, situations. People lose jobs, lose children. I mean, life is going to hand us what it's going to hand us, but suffering is optional. pain is a part of life, but suffering is optional. And what you're saying, I think, is that in this journey that you're taking, you're learning to be able to be present with whatever life hands us. And isn't this what we're seeking with our children, is to be present for them, for their world, in whatever is happening in their world.
Whatever is
So can you share a little bit about how your own journey of self-care then is affecting your connection with your daughter?
Sure. She was just saying a minute ago about being able to sit with whatever shows up in our children's world. And when my daughter, who can have extremely big feelings, she's only 7, when she shows up with a huge emotion, over maybe not going to swim the time she wants to swim, I'm able to hold the space for that emotion that comes through her, because I have taken care of myself and I have accepted disappointment in myself, or I have a disappointment on my own. I have accepted sadness or fear, and so I'm able to hold that space for hers when it shows up.
That's beautiful. Go ahead, sorry.
No, and self-care is the way that I was able to do that.
You took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say that's what I call emotional self-care, is learning to be present with our own big feelings. And so you have learned how to go and be present and sit with and nourish with compassion and empathy your own big emotions. So that's what I call emotional self-care, or self-care on the emotional level. So I think what everyone probably really wants to know, I know I want to know, can you share with us your journey from, I know when you first started even thinking about giving yourself permission for self-care, it felt kind of foreign to you, and I know you did experience guilt. And so I'd love for you to share your journey of how did you go from feeling guilty to this beautiful manifesto where you really truly know, I mean this very sincerely, I'm so respectful and acknowledging of you, because I've known you. This is the really thing that I feel so privileged in the work that I do, is because I get to go on people's intimate journeys. So I know that you've been on a journey of giving yourself permission, and I know there was a time that you didn't necessarily give yourself permission. So
Sure.
I just think for everybody, on this journey, tell us how you went from A to Z.
Well,
Or B.
I primarily went from A to Z with Susie, and that's the very important thing to know, is that her work in the value of self-care and the practice and the teaching and the experience of self-care is the way that I have moved through that experience. It's the way. We've explored different ways to do it, like I mentioned earlier, and for everybody, some different things will feel better for other people, but
were there days that you wanted to journal, or wanted to go do some art, or you had the feeling inside of wanting to nourish your spirit, but you felt guilty and it stopped you, and then you learned how to move through it?
Yes. First of all, I didn't really understand the self-care that we're talking about.
Yes.
I thought self-care had a lot to do with my nails
Yes.
and the time that I spent at the spa.
This
more
is
than
important.
anything else.
This is important. Yes.
And Susie has worked me through, like she said a minute ago, emotional self-care, soul nourishment, spiritual self-care, physical self-care, all of that. And I had congestion in different parts of that self-care. I still have congestion. But recognizing that self-care has to do with the entirety of who we are.
Yes.
Is one of the ways that has helped me nourish myself, by recognizing there's different parts to it.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think this is the biggest question people have for me is, well, I feel guilty and the guilt stops me. I know I want to go to the gym, but I feel guilty about taking that hour away from my daughter, or I want to, I have the feeling, because I always say, and in fact, if every one of you does this right now, if we just each close our eyes right now, I absolutely guarantee you that when you ask yourself, what does my soul, what does my heart, what does my self, what does my spirit need to feel nourished, and just take a moment and listen for an answer. What do I need right now in this moment to feel nourished, to feel nurtured? something will come. So if anything came to any one of you, please feel free to write it in the comments. What is calling to you? Because always our intuition, our heart, our highest self, it's always calling to us, and it calls to us in whispers. And I think the big question for most individuals is, how do I move through the cultural density that tells me I should not go take care of myself, I should not go honor the calling of my heart, the calling of my spirit, the calling, and so we override over and over and over again. And so I'm seeking to empower us of, it's going to take those first few times. I always say, prove it out to myself,
Yes.
that I felt like, oh my gosh, I really should stay home with my son, but I did it anyway. And then I always say the me that came back, it was a better me,
Yes.
it was a more fulfilled me. And I liked me better. So I know if I like me better,
Our children
my
do too.
son is having a good day,
Yes.
Is there anything that you remember about moving through the density of,
I remember that it was sometimes uncomfortable. The density is the reason why it exists, I think, is because it got uncomfortable and it just stayed there. So accepting that discomfort and being able to move through some of it, I can definitely remember that. And I would do the same as what Susie is saying. If I was having a struggle with getting my daughter to brush her teeth, I would consciously recognize the day that I would say brush, 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 brush. There's no question about it. Or the days that I took time to journal, connect with who I am, realize some intuitive parts about myself, and then we handled the teeth brushing incidences much different, with less stress.
okay, that's a great, like, good practical example. This is what everyone is wanting to know. How in the world does something like self-care affect brushing teeth at night? Because always, my son is 14, we're still talking about brushing teeth at night,
Yeah.
please wash your face. So this is great. So get a little specific and share with everyone how your evening in that, how you used to be and
Sure.
how self-care has.
Well, I shared with Susie before, I'm done working around 5 o'clock, and on my way home or on my way to pick up my daughter, it would build inside of me. Oh my gosh, here comes dinner, and oh my gosh, we're gonna have to do this and this and this. And the moment I saw her, there was no doubt that she realized that was going on inside of me, rather than I am so excited, can't wait for the minute to get her and move through the evening. But the bathing and the teeth brushing and everything was just causing me anxiety because I didn't want there to be tension and stress, which I was bringing to it. So through this self-care, with whatever method individuals choose, but through this journaling for me and other ways of self-care, I'm just nourished inside of myself, and I don't have that anxiety when I come home.
Exactly.
And it's not even about getting her teeth brushed or not, whether she does or doesn't. It's not about that at all.
Yes.
It's just about the calmness that it creates inside of me, the peace it creates inside of me, which then comes to the bathroom, and we clean ourselves with less tension.
Yes. So this is what we also have been speaking of in these last few days, is that our children feel not our words, our children feel the energy underneath our words. And so what I hear you say is that you would come in with anxiety. And I think as parents, teeth brushing, getting into bed, getting pajamas, bath time, especially at the end of the day when we are tired, this is why I say self-care is so important, because when we take the time to meditate or close our eyes for a few minutes, and we don't often give ourselves time. I like to think of my day as 2 days. I have up until about 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and then I start my whole evening, which is, I think of it as another day. And so when I take the time to meditate, even if it's just for a few minutes, close my eyes, listen to a beautiful piece of music, anything, what happens is my own nervous system calms down. And when my nervous system calms down, everyone around me calms down, because we feel each other's energy. We say whatever words we say, but really the way that we are connecting, like right now, I know that you all can feel Adrian's heart. She's a really big-hearted woman. I can feel it. It's just emanating. Now, if she was really anxious and worried and uptight and stressed, we would feel that too, right? So this is what I feel like if I'm intending to live a life of meaning and purpose, and I'm intending to make each day like a masterpiece day, then I need to call myself forward to nourish myself. So in the evenings, if I take, even 10 minutes to listen to some beautiful music and I calm down, like you're saying, what changed for you is that you weren't coming in with that underlying anxiety. So you started paying attention to your energy in addition to your words.
Yes.
And so this is what I'm going to, this is what I'm going to implore you all to do, is to stop listening so much to your words and begin to feel your energy. Because this is what everyone is feeling from you anyway.
Yes.
We're feeling each other's energy. So just be relaxed and listen inside of yourself. Feel inside of yourself. Your mouth is going ba 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 ba, but feel your energy. And when you feel your energy anxious, stressed, fearful, disconnected, angry, frustrated, severed, these are all normal feelings. We all have, whatever emotions we have. But this is why we need to not only learn how to be present with them, but we need to all agree, back to the theme today around guilt, we need to all begin to agree that it is ridiculous, utterly ridiculous, to tell ourselves that we should not take care of our own feelings of frustration or anxiety or fear. We shouldn't be telling ourselves don't have that. We should be teaching ourselves how to be present with that, so that when our children feel, or anyone around us, our significant other or a coworker, when we connect inside of ourselves, let no one tell us we should feel guilty about taking care of ourselves. It's just the more I do this work, the more ludicrous it sounds to me. So we're seeking to band together here, to join together in collective agreement, saying, this is what I guarantee you, I utterly, unequivocally guarantee you this. Once you begin to see your intention as an innocent intention of taking care of yourself rather than a guilt-filled intention, when you start to see your intention around self-care as innocent so that you have more to offer your children and those around you, once you see your intention as innocent, you cannot feel innocent and guilt at the same time. Innocence and guilt cannot coexist. So the day that you recognize, in the moment by moment by moment practice, you recognize your own innocent intention to take care of yourself so that you're better for those around you, you will not experience guilt at the same time as innocence. So we are called to create a mantra inside of ourselves that my intention for taking care of myself is innocent, because I'm intending not to neglect my child or not to neglect those around us. I'm intending, to be even closer to those around me, to have more to give those around me. When I'm at my best, I'm a better girlfriend. When I'm at my best, I can be the mom that my son needs me to be.
Indeed.
So I'm so passionate about this. If you haven't noticed, I'm so passionate about this, you guys. We need to say, basically, guilt be gone no more. I have an innocent intention to take good care of myself, to be a better individual for those around me. And when I feel my intention to be innocent, I can't feel guilty ever again at the same time. So you might have to call forward that innocent intention over and over and over and over again in a day, but you don't feel guilty anymore, do you? I don't feel guilty anymore. I feel great. I feel great. I feel proud. I feel, like I'm being of service to those around me. I'm being of service. I'm being of the highest service to my son when I take better care of myself. That is how I am in true service to him. I come as the mother he needs me to be. So I hope that this is encouraging you all to begin to see your own intention as innocent, to really connect with your own intuition. Ask yourself what it is that you need to nourish your spirit and give that to yourself so we stop overriding our intuition.
Yes.
Anything else you want to say before we close?
I want to
Adrienne?
make sure that you mention the book that's going to be released
Oh,
in a
thank
week
you.
or two.
Thank you, thank you,
Yes.
thank you. So you can go to my website, SuzieLula.com, SUZILULA.com, and you can download for free the first chapter of the book. It's called From Self-Sacrifice to Self-Care, all about guilt, martyrdom, what we've been talking about, and how to move yourself from the old paradigm of self-sacrifice to the new paradigm of self-care. So thank you. Anyone that's joining us for the first time, please go to my website, download chapter 1. I want to see what Goldie's saying here. Goldie is saying, I was so curious about this, Goldie, because we were both raised Jewish. Goldie is saying, opposite of what I grew up with. Jewish people thrive on feeling guilty and being martyrs. The more you do that, the more that festers feathers in your cap. This, I was wondering about you, Goldie, because we were both raised Jewish, and we, in my family, used to tease and call my mom the Queen of Martyrdom. Sorry, Mom. But we would tease her because we were encouraging her, Mom, you don't need to deprive yourself. You don't need to deprive yourself. So, and Mir is saying, yes, every mother should do this. Every mother should, and we should encourage each other.
Exactly.
This is why I'm such an advocate for, us. I'm a cheerleader. I'm a big, it's my passion. It's my mission. I guarantee you, utterly guarantee you, if you go take care of yourself, really nourish your spirit, you will come back and you will be so happy you did. So we need to encourage each other as well. We need to join together. So thank you all for being here. Remember, you can go to my website, SuzieLula.com. You can download chapter 1. Please leave your mom deprived herself always, Goldie is saying. I think that many of us can think of our moms, and I, as a child, I wasn't wanting or needing my mom to deprive herself. In fact, I wanted just the opposite for her. And so our children are not wanting us to deprive ourselves, So nourishing your spirit, that is the key. Exactly, nourishing your spirit, that is the key. Hi, Angie. So great to see you. I'm here with Adrienne. It's so awesome to be meeting her face to face and be feeling her big heart and spirit. So I guarantee you, unequivocally, go out, do something that nourishes your spirit, and then go to either Suzie Lula on Facebook, the Motherhood Evolution on Facebook, and write to us how you change inside, because I've seen Adrienne blossom and flourish, and I'm seeing her relationship with her daughter blossom and flourish because of this. So, oh, beautiful. Angie is saying you're going to watch the replay. I hope you all watch the replay so that we get more and more and more courageous about taking care of our spirit. So much love, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow about the same time. It's going to be sometime in the afternoon tomorrow, sometime in the late afternoon, early evening tomorrow. Adrienne is also an amazing mom.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for being willing to be with me today. I've just loved every second of it.
I appreciate it. Thank you
Every
all
second.
so much for encouraging us. And
Yeah.
self-care, it's a lifeline.
It's a lifeline, people. All right. We'll see you tomorrow about the same time.
Thank you.
We'll post what time we're going to be on. Bye, everyone.